This is more designed for the guy who's just now starting out or just became familiar with the DCS series and wants to know how to add an aircraft, how to add a vehicle, how to add waypoints, that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for very advanced features, you may want to skip this video. To get started, for the new guy, you basically want to kind of decide what kind of a mission you want to do. This one's going to be a simple one where I want to set up some vehicles right around this area here around Potty. I'll set up some air defenses. None of these vehicles are going to be moving. They're just all going to be stationary, but they'll have some defenses. And the player will, I'll have them take off out of Batumi, fly in, attack, fly home, and land. It's going to be pretty basic. Since we're kind of limited on time, around 15 minutes, it may get split into 2 videos, but I'll try and do this kind of quickly. We're going to come over here to vehicles. Now I'm going to select Russia in this one. Leave the ZU-23 off. I am going to add a couple of BMPs. And once you have everything selected, you can select the skill level, depending on what you want to do. I'm going to put it on high. That way there's somewhat of a threat to the player, but not a big threat. And again, I'll just start putting them right here. That's one. Now let's say you want to add multiple units. You simply come up to this area here which says unit 1 of 1 and just increase that up to how many you want. I'll go ahead and make it 8. Give the player a couple targets to shoot at. And as you can see, it built up 8 targets. And if you zoom in, you can see they're kind of spaced out. Here you can also have whatever their heading is. If you want to point a particular direction, like if they were going down a road, there's different ways you can do it. You can also have it whether they're hidden on the map so the player can't see when they take off, or you can even have them hidden on the map but visible before start. That's for like mission planning if you want to create a more complex mission for people to actually look at the briefing ahead of time and kind of put together a strategy. Again, you can assign waypoints. It defaults to add, so you can sit there start adding waypoints. Again, we won't do that for these guys. We'll add it for some others. These are triggered actions. Won't get into that again. That's more advanced stuff. This is a summary to give you some information as to what they're doing, where they're going. Advanced features, we again won't get into these, so don't worry about that right now. But right now, these targets here, we're going to change this vehicle group name. So just call it new vehicle group. We'll call this BMPs. The reason why is when we start creating triggers or mainly triggers, to be honest with you. It's mainly the triggers. It's a lot easier if you have a good naming convention, just to make things easier. It allows you to keep track of stuff. If you've watched some of my other videos, you even saw where I got slightly confused in one, and I had to go back and double check, make sure I had the right group selected. If you don't have a good naming scheme or naming convention, you can easily throw yourself off. You're a new group 1, new group 2, new group 3. It can get really confusing, especially when you have really complex missions. But that's kind of the basics of a target. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in a few different ones. You want to basically click on this button here to start adding new ones. And as you can see, it defaults to what you originally created. So you want to pay attention to that when it comes to your name. And I'm going to go ahead and add in, we're going to add in some surface air threats. So we'll add in some man pads. And I'm going to call these IGLAs. And we'll go ahead and add one in here, and we're going to increase this up to 4. Now, with these guys, I'm actually going to click up. Accidentally created a waypoint. You want to be careful that it does default to waypoints. I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm just going to drag. Yeah, be careful when you click on the first one you create, you move the entire group. If you want to just drag and drop one individual one, you need to be careful with how they are set up. So I have man paths set up around. Just give the player, some type of a threat instead of him just, goofing off and screwing around. We want them just to pay attention to kind of what they're doing. Not really huge about it, but it's something. And actually, they're all BMPs. For some reason, they didn't change. Let me go ahead and get that changed. There we go. And we need to go ahead and make them all now. And here it is, guys. Again, we're changing these back over to IGLAs because I made a snafu and they didn't switch over properly, which is fine. Allows you guys to see how you can do this. And what also, if you paid attention, it also allows you to create a bunch of different units, change each one to something else, so you can have your own specific group made up of different vehicles. That's just in case you want to have, you know, something special. And that way, if you assign a JFAC, you assign it to just the group, and he'll target all the different items or all the different enemies within that group, even if they're different vehicles. So again, that's a way you can create a more advanced mission if you wanted to. Right now, what you see here are all the threat circles, because the Igla itself actually has a threat circle, or a detection circle, and an engagement circle. Excuse me, guys, I still have that lingering cold. And that's something to keep in mind. Once something enters its detection circle, it doesn't mean the actual enemy is going to target and engage them. So keep that in mind. Usually the engagement circle is a little bit smaller. Like this one is probably going to be this one right here. I'd have to separate them out to see for sure, but as you see, the Igla is going to be pretty close to the detection and engagement circle, whereas there's others, there's a much bigger spacing.
Hey, Rev, you there?
There's another time I had to step away, guys. Sorry about that. Now that we have basically this basic target set up, what I'm then going to do is zoom out. I'm going to come down to Batumi, in which I'm going to create an aircraft, and you select it over here as your object, USA, new airplane group. I'm going to call it Hog 1. Again, just so that my naming conventions are good. You can rename your pilot to whatever you want. It's entirely up to you. Skill, whatever you want. And you see right now you have no options. Just leave it wherever, add the aircraft in, and now you can select client or player. If it's going to be a multiplayer game, you select client. If it's going to be a single player mission, it's going to be player. Also, to test your mission out, I do recommend that before you ever post them, you want to make sure you have one aircraft joined in as a player, just so you can actually test it out. For now, I'll just make it as a player. As a takeoff from ramp, takeoff from one runway, these are different options you can do. We're going to do it very basic. Takeoff from ramp. Now here you actually have an option to select your different parking spaces. This airfield doesn't have that many, and keep that in mind when you're creating a multiplayer mission. Have them spawn, you know, in the same general area, just to make things more, I guess, easier for the human pilots to meet up and join in. For me. And now I'm going to drag one out here. Well, this is actually waypoint 2. The one where the aircraft is sitting at is waypoint 1. So bear that in mind when you're creating missions and you actually name your waypoints, which you can. And I'll show you that in a moment. And as you see, waypoint 1 is takeoff from ramp. That's actually the spawn point, even though, again, they're numbered 1 here. Just remember that's not how it is in the mission editor. You just have to keep that in mind. And you can even set your altitude on everything. What I'm now going to look at, I'm going to go up to waypoint 2. It's now at 2,000 meters, which, if you do the math, there's 3 meters in a foot, or there's 3 feet in a meter, so that's 6,000 feet. I'm going to extend this out just a little bit further, because the player is not going to immediately climb to 6,000 feet in any reasonable way. I'm going to make sure I have my waypoint added, or the add button selected, and I'm going to bring them up here and like this. We'll go back to edit real quick, and I am going to bring this guy right around here, and I'm actually going to name waypoint 3 or waypoint 4, depending on whether you're referencing the mission editor or the end game. I'm going to name this target, and this name will actually show up in the HUD of the player. It'll also show up in the CDU. It'll also show up in the left MFD for the TAD if they have the settings pulled up right. This is just something where you can give that player an extra cue. Now I'm going to bring the next waypoint here and bring it back to around 1. Actually, since he's going to take off into the wind, I'll bring it down to this side. And let me adjust this a little bit. I'm going to set 5 up to where it's going to line them pretty much in, coming in for the landing. Then put 6 right over the landing. And again, in mission editor is waypoint 7. The player will see it as waypoint 6 when they're in the HUD. I'm now going to put this to landing. So now the player's going to get the cue to come in for landing at that waypoint. And that's kind of how a basic mission is set up. Only other options really are to select an ordnance. And you have all these pre-made ordinances that you can select from, or you can create your own custom one. And I'll show you that here real quick. Let's say this is pretty much what you're looking for, but you don't want really this rocket pod. You want something else. So I can sit there and say, well, you basically right-click on the column and the row that you want, or that you want to change. Let's go ahead and change that to a GBU 38. Now, seeing how there's 3 of these, this is Mark 82s, and there's only 1 here, you're actually going to be pretty well lopsided. So I'm going to go ahead and just make that 3 just for the heck of it. As you see, that now makes 3. This little guy here tells you how many are on that pylon. By clicking on it, you can see, like, this is a missile, and you can see you can go up to 3 if you wanted to. I won't really do that for now. We'll just leave that the way it is, and that sets the ordnance. What you can see here is your fuel weight, empty weapons, total pounds, your max takeoff, which you're almost right there. Your max takeoff is here. This is your total weight. So you're pretty much darn near 100%. So keep that in mind when you have them taking off. If they're at 100%, they're going to need more runway, and if you can actually bump this up to where they're well over 100%, it means they're going to need more runway to take off. Sorry about that, guys. I had some people jump in on the Ventrilo. They're trying to get me to play some Left 4 Dead. I'll be doing that here in a moment. Yeah, I enjoy that for just the mind-numbing violence. Here you can select the type of ammo type. If it's a training mission, you can give them target practice, a high explosive incendiary, combat mix. The default is combat mix. Just go ahead and leave it there unless you're actually creating a true training mission. But that is your basic mission. Now, in here, you can actually assign targets to this guy. Entirely up to you what you want to do. Otherwise, he can fly in and just start targeting. I won't really show triggers because I've done quite a few triggers. We'll maybe do that in another mission, but if you want to see triggers actually setting up to where after he destroys these guys, it gives him like a congratulations, the enemy's dead, return to base. Look at some of my other videos. They'll definitely go over that with you. Otherwise, you know, they're just going to fly home, land, and that's going to be pretty much it. Now, if you want to make this a multiplayer mission, at this time in the beta, if you increase this up, you know, exponentially to give multiple aircraft, understand that with waypoints set, it will cause the game to crash. So what you will have to do is create an aircraft itself. And let me actually decrease the number. You have to create a second aircraft group, which will be a single aircraft. And I normally do my naming scheme, just to give you a heads up. I do Hog 1, Hog 2, Hog 3, Hog 4, depending on how many aircraft I'm creating. And then you zoom in as close as you can. You know, set the waypoint on top of this one, and you try to set them basically as close as you can in the same naming scheme, same flight plan. It's more work that you have to do at this point in time in the beta, but hey, it's a beta, guys. Don't fret over it. It's just one of those things. Once the bug gets fixed, all you have to do is increase the number of aircraft, and you're good to go, no problem. That's the basics of the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free again to let me know either through my YouTube page or contact me through the DCS series website, or you can even find me on SimHQ. Either one of those places, ask your questions, ask for, you know, if you have specific scenarios you want touched on in more detail, just let me know. And by all means, provide all the comments, and we will see you the next time. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.